Now, viewers, focus is back on the top story. At least 275 people have been confirmed to be killed in India's one of the deadliest aviation disaster involving a London-bound Air India flight from Ahmedabad. The development comes as a high-level multidisciplinary committee headed by the Union Home Secretary has been formed to examine the causes and the factors that led to the fatal crash, leaving in fact everyone except one survivor alive on in fact after the crash. It has suggested comprehensive guidelines to prevent such incidents in the future. All right, viewers, on that note, joining me on the broadcast is a very special guest, Air Vice Marshal Suryakant Chafekar, AVM Shaurya Chakra, joins me live on the broadcast. Appreciate you, sir, joining me live on the telecast, and thank you very much for giving us your time. As now, if we begin about discussing the kind of actions that have been taken by the center after the tragedy has broken out, how do you react to the aftermath of this tragic accident? Also, at the same time, the investigation that is going to be the top priority after the fatal crash, killing at least 241 passengers and more on the ground of the medical students.
Firstly, I would like to tell you that the accident has happened in a very critical stage of flight. In aviation, normally there are two critical stages of flight. One is the takeoff and the second one is landing. And these are the stages when the pilot is on alert to his topmost of his capabilities and is trained very well for these two activities. In this case, you know, when we are taking off, you from a zero speed, you have to attain a speed where you can rotate the aircraft and make it airborne. So that speed is considered to be a very critical speed. And in this case, as you can see very clearly, the aircraft is airborne. That means this critical speed which is required to get airborne has been attained. So till then there has been no problem. That is for sure. Thereafter, his undercarriage are still down. Normally, till they attain the speed, normally the undercarriages are selected up, because after you take off, after certain height, within your checks and procedures only, undercarriage up position comes up. And that helps you because it reduces the drag and helps you in climbing away from the ground. Anyway, undercarriage is not being up is not that serious. However, when you see whatever the videos are available, the investigation of course will go into all these aspects in depth. However, whatever appears from the video, it is very clear that there is loss of power, or you can call it thrust, because the attitude of the aircraft remains high as a climbing, and vertically it is coming down. This stage is something closer to stall. It is not exactly stall, but it is vertically coming down. That is where we have to look at that something has to go wrong with the engines, because there is lack of power. And that lack of power has created these problems. So investigations will continue, but we will just have a look why there should be a lack of power. Either the parameters will not be right because whatever fuel or whatever is supplied to the engine is not being done, is not happening correctly. Or number two, there is a likelihood that low level, there are birds also. So there can be a bird ingestion in the engine. That also causes the engine to give less power or to seize also at times. So this second part of this is that the fuel is full. It has just taken off, so it has taken the fuel for the entire route. So the disaster, which is a drastic disaster which has happened, is because of the availability of plenty of fuel. The moment it has impacted, all that has burnt in one go. That is why this tragic incident is much more worse, because the full fuel, so it is like as it has hit on the ground, the accident happened, it has an infed. So this is the basic issue because of which I think this has happened.
Okay.
These are, we likely causes only we can talk about, and it is not good to talk about definitely that this has happened. It is not possible also, it is not correct also.
Okay,
So
we can't point out at one possible reasons, sir, as you are also putting it out, and I'm able to understand, and I'm trying my best to understand from your perspective as well, as you are already stating that there possibly could be reasons, and the one particular reason that will be now coming out is a matter of investigation. We understand that, but do you think this is a right time, so that we can also rule out any of the causes that have been caused on the side of the pilot's mistake? Because there are theories which are being made in a lot of suspicion about factors that are emerging at this point of time. So is it a right time that we rule out, at least in this discourse, that there must have been any discrepancies that happened on the pilot's side?
Listen, as we said, this is a critical phase of flight, and for this, the pilot is very, very well prepared. So much that if I have to give an example, if a pilot is given an emergency just when he's almost in a sleepy mood and he's given an emergency that this is the critical emergency, he will rattle out the actions. That is the seriousness which is the pilot is trained for such emergencies. However, as we all know, there can be only 3 to 4 causes. Weather is one. Because of bad weather, things happen here, that is ruled out totally. Second, can be the technical faults which can happen. Finally, this is a mechanical thing. A mechanical thing can go wrong without any notice. That is why it is known as accidental thing. Number 3, as you said, is pilot error. But however, the way when you watch the video, you can make out the way the pilot is holding on to the attitude, which is the climbing attitude of the aircraft. He is in the control of the aircraft. However, if a single engine fails, then he has got more role to play. We don't know whether one engine has failed or both the engines have failed. But if single engine has failed, he has more role to play because he controls the aircraft, and with the available power from one engine, he continues to climb. There his skill level is tested much more. But the way the aircraft has gone down, it doesn't appear that it is only one. And the lack of thrust or the availability of power required is much lesser. Now, why it is lesser is to be found out by investigators. And when they find out what you are talking about, the pilot error part will automatically come into it. But if it is realized that engines have had problem, then pilot errors appears to be much lesser, because it appears that he has done almost everything which is possible, because he has given mayday call. Mind you, he is so alert that he has declared his emergency. Normally, you don't get time to declare your emergency at such critical phases. But because you are doing thousands of actions that time, you are trying to control the aircraft, you are trying to check what has gone wrong, you are looking at the all the emergency lights, which is on, which is off, you are trying to keep the aircraft afloat. But in all these actions also, this pilot has given a mayday call, in which he has declared the emergency, and somewhere I think he has talked about that there is a problem with the thrust. That means the power required with him is not there for takeoff.
So
that is what I will say about
sir, can this be established that in a situation when the distress call was given, there was a complete understanding on the pilot's side? At least can we establish that something has gone terribly wrong and it was alerted, but due to what circumstances possibly was this not being able to be in fact given attention to, or was there a lack of time for even the ATC to respond appropriately?
Yes, I will explain you in a very short term here. When a mayday call is given, basically it is given for help to the aircraft which is in distress when he will try and come in and land back. So when he's landing back, then ATC has to keep the emergency services ready, like fire tenders, car tenders, other help. However, in this case, if you see the mayday call he has given, and within 30 seconds he is on ground. So in this, he has given a mayday call to let them know that there is some problem with the aircraft and he is trying to do the needful, and alert them that if he can come back and land, that time they will be ready. So that is the concept of giving a distress call. However, as I told you, takeoff and landing are two critical phases where the time available for a pilot to respond is so less, so critical, that firstly he has to concentrate on doing the action and save the aircraft, which in this case I feel the pilot has done rightly. But while doing so also, it is commendable that while doing so also, he has given the mayday call also. Imagine, he is communicating with the ATC, he is controlling the aircraft, he is trying to maintain that climb factor, establish that. But something very drastic, like some problem with the engine has occurred, because of which he has not been able to bring back the aircraft to the climbing attitude.
Well, sir, I understand. In fact, right now we are in a situation to react in a manner after certainty of making sure that this possibly could have happened, or that would have happened. But ultimately, it is the black box, as you have also rightly pointed out. But at the same time,
Yes.
sir, as such a tragic, it is one of the worst aviation disasters. No matter how many times we reiterated, the grief of these people who have lost their family members and the uncertainty of such an incident definitely reeks of a stronger standard procedural safety, in fact, more guidelines. So what do you think? How do we look at it now? Because this is something that is beyond control, but going forward, this is something which also comes to the subject of major review and reconsideration.
Absolutely right. You have hit the nail on the head. There are many things which can be done. Number one, we when we construct a runway or we have a plan for a runway, there are mandatory things which should be done. But over a period of time, those mandatory things are not being done because of development of cities, okay, the construction around the cities and towns. The ideal situation where a runway is will be that its takeoff and landing path is almost, I'm talking about ideal situation, okay, which may not be possible but should be there, that it is clear of all the constructions. There should not be buildings, there may not be. Still, there are a lot of places where this is maintained. But in big cities, because of lack of space or maybe within the town area, that is why you will see a lot of new runways which are coming up. I can name few. One is Hyderabad, other is Bangalore. Okay, the third one is now coming up at Bombay. They are far away from the town and city. So when this such disaster happens, then we realize how important it is to have such a place. But you know, every time it is not possible. So that is one point. Number two, point number two is the company aircraft which is there. In this case, the Boeing definitely will get into the matter and find out what has gone wrong. Is it a kind of a design problem, structural problem, or major basic problem, which is normally done in all accident, and the aircrafts are grounded till you find the reason what has gone wrong. So I think that action is another important one which needs to be taken. Thirdly, I can reassure you here that in aviation, this disaster happened, accident is happened. My sympathies with all the families who have lost their dear and near ones. But let me assure you as a pilot that the flight safety aspect, whether it is civil flying or it is military flying, the flight safety aspect is always kept paramount. That means first, for everything comes the safety, and then other aspect we consider. Still,